Yeah, so we by the way, well,
It's so hard to read between the lines.
hopefully the AC probably fixed anything. That's right. It's funny you get these that's right. I'm not melting just yet. Yeah. Hey.
Started at 5:30.
I'll be there. Stand back there. Yeah, I gotta brush up on my Halloween bags.
Yeah, she didn't realize. She's like, who? No, that's not my brother. Oh, like, sure.
I think so. Yeah, we have a forum, so.
Good morning. Meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission will now come to order. It's Thursday, November 17th. Time is 9:32. The meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. First up, we will introduce the commissioners. Vice Chair, Robert Franco.
Hello.
Commissioner Mike Delacruz.
Aloha.
Commissioner CJ Kanuha.
Aloha kakaya.
Commissioner Zaheva Knowles.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Mahina Paishan Ward is not here yet. Are we expecting her today?
Yes.
Okay. We'll introduce her when she comes in. I'm Chairperson Mike Matusik. We have a quorum to hold this meeting. Continuing with introductions. Deputy Corporation Counsel Kira Wong, attorney for the Planning Commission. Deputy Corporation Counsel Gene Campbell, attorney for Planning Department. We have from the Planning Department, Planning Director Zendo Kern.
Aloha.
We're here for agenda item 1. Deputy Planning Director Jeff Darrow is outside in the brown and yellow shirt. He's here for agenda item number 2. Staff, we have Christian K stepping in for Maya as program manager for this meeting. We have Jessica Andrews. Is Jessica here?
Good morning. I'm here via Zoom.
Oh, hello.
There you are.
Planner Miriam Palma. Hi, Miriam. Nice to meet you. Commission Secretary Noriko Sauer. Noriko, and Janice Hata as the Zoom host in Hilo.
Hello.
If everybody could please make sure your cell phones are off or on silent. If there's anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the yellow sign-up form in the back table and give it to our staff. If you have a written testimony that has not been sent in, you may submit it now. All of us who are attending in person, please pick up your microphone. When you speak directly into the microphone so that your statements can be recorded and transcribed. Okay, we have our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes from the October 20th, 2022 Leeward Planning Commission meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Kanuha,
Second.
second by Commissioner Knowles. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries. We will proceed with statements from the public on agenda items. So as stated in the published agenda, members of the public may provide testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called to order. If there's anyone here who would like to testify, again, please fill out the yellow form in the back and give it to our staff. Also, if you have any written testimony, you can give that to us now. Testifiers on Zoom, you may choose to provide your testimony now or at the time the agenda item is called. Please keep your video camera off and the audio muted until you're called to testify by the host. Please note that this is an in-person meeting and the Zoom platform and YouTube live stream are provided as a courtesy. So our meetings will proceed even if the Zoom and or YouTube connections fail. Finally, before we start to receive public testimony, pursuant to Rule 1-5 of the Planning Commission Rules of Practice and Procedure, I'll remind everybody of the following. Chairperson or vice chairperson may limit testimony which is irrelevant, abusive, disruptive, or unduly repetitious. The person testifying shall direct his or her remarks to the chairperson and not to any individual or any person in the audience. All members of the public shall extend proper courtesy and respect to one another, to the commission members, and to staff. Any person who doesn't abide by the rules may be ruled out of order by the chairperson and who has the authority to maintain order in the forum. We'll all behave. Are there any in-person testifiers? On this, here we go. Okay, would you like to testify now or at the time of the agenda item? Now, okay. Please come forward. Aloha. Sure, would you mind raising your right hand? What's that?
I don't pledge to that, but.
Sure, it's just, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
Ayo,
Mahalo. And would you please state your name and the town that you live in?
I'm Cindy Freitas. I live in Cayucana.
Would you please speak it to the microphone?
I'm Cindy Freitas and I live in Cayucana.
Mahalo. And I see that you're testifying on both agenda items.
Correct.
Would you take your full 6 minutes now?
Well, both of them is similar to what I got in my testimony.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha. My name, let me do my protocol. E mele komo ahe mele aloha nana kupuna I ka au I hala. Aloha man. My name is Cindy Freitas and I'm a native Hawaiian descendant of the native inhabitant of Hawaii prior to 1778. I'm born and raised in Hawaii. I'm also a practitioner who still practice the culture, traditional, customary practices that was instilled in me by my grandparents at a young age from Mauka to Makai. I oppose Agenda 1 and 2. There is no culture survey under HRS 6E-42 review of proposed project before any agency or officer of the state or its political subdivision approves any project involving a permit, lease, certificate, land use change, subdivision, or other entitlement for use which may affect historical property, artifacts, or burial sites. The agency or officers shall advise the department and prior to any approval, allow the department an opportunity for review and comment on the effect of the proposed project on historical property, artifacts, burial site, consistent with section E6-43 of the Hawaii Revised Statute, including those listed in the Hawaii Register of Historic Places. Item 2 is adjacent to the Kahalu Historical District. The Constitution of the State of Hawaii clearly states the duty of the state and its agency is to preserve, protect, and preserve interference with traditional customary rights of Native Hawaiians. Article 12, Section 7 requires the state to protect all rights, customary and traditional exercise for substance, culture, and religious purposes imposed by A'apua'a tenants who are the descendants of Native Hawaiian who inhabit Hawaiian Islands prior to 1778. So this goes forward to item 1 and 2. I oppose both of them. Thank you.
Mahalo. Is there any more public testimony that would like to be done at this time versus at the time of the agenda item? Or now, would you like to sign up on the sheet? You did, okay. Okay. Let's go forward. Welcome. Will you please raise your right hand? Oh, we need you to swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter. Mahalo. Please state your name and the town that you live in.
I live Honolulu, right here I'm sorry. Yeah.
We can't hear you so well.
Oh, now you can hear me. Okay.
Mahalo.
My name is Claire. I'm a cultural practitioner. I've been a traditional midwife for over a half a century. This issue is really important. I live in Honolulu. That's not too far from here. So I would like to talk about both of these places. Koloko is not too far away from us. Kind of strange not to have to see all of you guys. So I'm talking to all of you. Who are all of you? Are you just all on the Leeward Planning Committee, or are you part of the
We did the introductions earlier. This is Leeward Planning Committee members here. These folks, and Kira is our legal representative, and then the planning department over on that side
Legal representative for,
for the planning commission.
oh, for the planning.
Yeah.
Okay. So both of these issues are really important, the one in Kuroko and of course on Ali'i Drive. It's really kind of sad that we're sitting here talking about this again and again and again. These are EV Kapuna. These are your archaeological sites. These have a direct impact on those that are coming and those that have left and those that are still here. It's so shady to me that you'd even want to go from 5 acres to 1 acre to get out of the Ka'alu historical properties. There's already laws from NACO on a federal level to a state level, on the sovereign level, and that you want to try to slip away and see what you can get away with. Lot 19 right now is a perfect example of what we've been trying to protect. Right across the street from, right in Ka'alu, Kukini Wall right there. And I'm sure you're all familiar with how many hundreds, if not thousands of burials are right there. It's a protected area. You want to go from 5 to 1, so why? So that you can get away with first grubbing and digging up our bones? Archaeological sites, all for what? Money? This is an emotional issue for me, having helped babies, you know, well over 1,000 or 1,500 at this point, mostly in the Hawaiian community. It is so sad that you think of money over the survival of your people, that these are lineal descendants that are coming back, that are here, that are working in these ceremonies, that are still there present, that you be thinking of selling off more land when you should be saving your land and thinking of your people, that you're going from 5 acres to 1 acre so that you can get out of the SMA and the preservation rules that are already there, so that you can get a permit and a grubbing permit anywhere. And then what, pay a fine? Well, the fines could be up to 50,000 and prison time. And I think that's maybe what the only thing that you guys should be thinking about is looking at what's happening with all of this being this, and I have 2 periods, so I know how much time I have. So having this time that you can really reflect on what's happening. You cannot go back and get your land. I've been working on burial rights since I was a teenager. And I remember learning, I was working with American Indian Movement on a big case back then. And then, you know, I'm in my 69th year. And I can remember them saying, until you have your bones back, it has a deep effect on all of the generations that are there. And I know that to be true. We still are doing traditional customary practices. We are still doing that. That's what Hanau is. That is the only way I work with Hawaii, with Hawaiian families. I've never used a machine and I've never used drugs. We depend on those iwi. We depend on that earth. We depend on those waters. And I'm saying this not to swear, but where's all the shit going? Literally, that you're now going to put on these little places, these huge high raises and 3 bathrooms. Where's the feces going? In the ocean. Where do your ancestors come from? How long have the whales lived out there? The sharks, 450 million years. 50 million for the Pohola. They are our ancestors. Whether you believe that or not, we still know it to be true.
You've got 1 minute to
No, I
summarize.
don't. I have 2
You have
times.
6 minutes total. I've got the timer going. You have 1 minute to summarize. Thank you.
You got a lot of people speaking here? Are you like so pressed for time that you gotta obey some rule and do that right now? When someone's speaking like me, I am a kupuna. That is shameful.
Mahalo.
No, don't mahalo me.
30 seconds to summarize.
No,
Yes.
I will finish when I finish. And that is only respect.
As respect to the commission, you have to follow the rules of the commission, that being 3 minutes to testify.
And
per agenda.
my rules of the native ways here is not yours. So you can take off that last minute. We'll go to a minute, but shameful again. Shameful. And so I ask all of you to look at this, go on deep effects, look at the next 10 generations. How will those children ever be able to go back to these places? Look at all the caves on lot 19 where we went in there. Right there was a cave, the bones. And what did they do? Did they even stop the grubbing? Could we call Shifty?
We're gonna have to move forward.
Could we call Shifty? Could we call any of these things?
I don't know.
Lot 19 is right on
So we'll
right
have to
there.
complete the testimony for now, and I'll give the,
Huh?
Once we brought up last night, the SMA.
hold on one second, guys.
Yeah, no, it's okay, it's okay.
Order,
No,
order,
we
order,
have the
order,
orders
order,
here.
order. Please stop.
Yeah,
Please
I know
stop.
it's not on the order. I know that. But
Please,
these other
please, ma'am,
lots.
please
are-
stop.
Excuse me?
You have to stop. This is a point of order.
Aren't I talking
I'm
to a
gonna-
council member? Are you like?
I am the chair of the commission, so all testimony has to come through me. I'm gonna give Commissioner Kanuha the opportunity to ask you questions, but it has to go in order. Mahalo. Commissioner Kanuha, questions?
I just wanted to know what lot 19 was, just because it's not, I don't see it on our agenda.
Yeah, lot 19 is, but it's still in that same SMA rule. So that same SMA rule applies to lot 19 or this lot that you're talking about right now, going to the 5 acres. So it's all in that Ka'olu preservation area, right? Same rules, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, everything's in this SMA area, anything below Kukini Highway.
Right,
is in- is
exactly,
in the
exactly.
I just was just, sorry, I asked you the question. I didn't know what you're talking about in regards to lot 19.
Yeah, just
What's on the agenda today?
Yeah, comparing it to, just to put it in perspective, comparing it to what is happening right now, like place-based project waste right now, and what will happen in these same areas if we don't do the archaeological and looking for the bones in those ways.
Yeah.
So we'll end up
Is
in
that
the
on our
same
agenda today?
Lot 19 is not on our
No,
agenda.
no, we already said not 19, but it's all in the same, they did not understand what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
all
I
in the same
understand what you're saying.
Okay,
I'm a direct lineal descendant of that area
yeah,
as well.
yeah, and
I
so
come
are,
straight down the line.
yeah.
So
yeah,
I
heard-
know
heard
exactly
that.
what you're talking about and where.
Yeah, so you understand the preservation of the bones there.
Yes.
Okay, Mahalo. Thank you for your testimony. Is there any other testifiers who would like to testify now, or will they reserve testimony for the time of the agenda items?
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
Yes,
Mahalo. Please state your name and the town you live in and proceed with your testimony.
Thomas Kukini Clement. I live up Kalau. I just wanted to first say thank you for everybody being here today. It's been a hard process for my family. We're not arguing to buy land or sell it. We're not developers. My family's been on that land for 350 years. We've had houses on there. We've had our family living on there for centuries. This isn't, I'm not asking to go there because it happened. It was a good bargain. It was a good opportunity. It was, I'm trying to get my family there. I'm trying to get our kupuna to their land. The very little we have left. We don't have a whole lot, 5 acres. And unfortunately, circumstances have put us in this place that we're at now. Circumstances out of our control. And so I just asked for the aloha and the help that we could get my mom back there, my tutu. This wasn't a fight I ever thought I'd have to fight in my generation. I'm not. I got the cocoa in me, but this is just been very difficult. And I'm not arguing we should do something. I'm not arguing we shouldn't do studies on the land. We've done our own. We've done it for centuries. We have a 1987 one. We've always cherished that land and everything on it. So to hear people think that we don't, really hard. It's been desecrated, and we've done everything we can to bring it back, to mend relationships between other communities that have been built between those times that our family has been on the land, to reaching out to everybody else in our family to make sure that they're okay with it. We have done everything we can on our end, so we're just asking that you guys see it in your hearts to have compassion on my family.
Mahalo. Thank you for your testimony. Hello.
You mind if I sit here and fix these people?
Oh, well,
Just an aside,
sure.
thank you.
Sure.
You raise my hand.
Yes, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission? Mahalo.
Well, good morning, everyone.
And please use the microphone and state your name and the town that you live in.
Aloha, my name is Wati Green. I am Cyrus Green's daughter, who is the owner, or is it on?
Yeah, it's on, it's on.
Hello, okay. I'm here to talk about 77-632A Kuakini, number 2 on your agenda. Time, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm not going to use the microphone. I want to address all of you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this for the transcribing for the minutes.
Okay, what I want to do here is explain to you about the 5.29 acres in a very brief statement. I'm an ancestor, so is my cousin behind you and her son come up to me. For the last 300 years, we've owned that property. We've acquired, we've occupied, and we've lived on there. Currently on that property, the 5.29, is a burial site that houses my grandfather, my grandmother, and my uncle. They're buried, the Pailima is in our front yard. 5.29 acres isn't a lot. After you cut it up, we're all given an acre and a quarter per child. But in the last 25 years, there's been nothing but kakaka or problems. And unfortunately, it has come to this day where we have to address everyone, including the board. But I think the public also needs to know, I'm Coco, I am from Kapala Alaya 1 and 2. So is my grandfather and my grandmother, Jenny Nahale, Charlie Nahale, Joe Nahale. We are all descendants of this land. We are not asking to sell or develop. With the gravesite that is currently there, we're trying to occupy the land so we can take care of it. Take care of the Pailina, take care of the iwi that is on our land. Now, many of you are adjacent or around or surround. If you don't know the story about Kapala Alaya, please come ask us. We're there. We've been there for generation after generation. But you're talking to Coco, you're not talking to a developer. I am not a contractor. I'm a Hawaiian native woman with my family that had to go ask someone to come and walk my aina to tell me where is the iwi that I'm not aware of. Where is my ancestor buried so I can take care of that? I'm not here to put a bulldozer and bulldoze the land to take it and sell it to some guy for $2, $5, $10 million. Kamaki, my son, my nephew, he said it right up. Why do we have to challenge you all here? Why? Where are you from? Are you blood Coco like me? I am Hawaiian. So I just wanted to share with all of you that we are not here to develop or sell this land. This land is in my blood. My father died for it. So did his siblings. My grandmother Jenny died for that. And she passed it on to us. So I hope with this testimony that it continue to move us forward instead of backwards. Because I'm just about, how more do we have to challenge all of you people?
No, mahalo.
I'm done.
Mahalo, Tiwari.
Thank you. Mike.
Appreciate it. Any more testimony this time? This, yep. Aloha.
Aloha.
Would you please raise
Marianne
your,
Stone. I
thank
live
you.
in White Sands Terrace.
Mahalo. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
I do.
Mahalo.
The first thing was, I went to that meeting at Old Days and we talked about what we needed. I never got a report what we were going to do for learning information on that meeting. One of the things was do the CDP and then start rezoning. If you start rezoning when you do the CDP, you're gonna have to redo it again or work around those things. Now, regarding this land, I have seen the history. I've seen the history of people coming in and buying 5 acres and putting 62 houses on it, small lots, 7,500 square feet. Oh, wait a second. You also own half of the road, so it's really only 4,500 square feet. You know, as far as this family, that is what we all hope for. What I don't trust is that the county, is there's any way to ensure that it would just be these 4 developments. I am afraid that if this is rezoned at this point, it will take a precedent and then you'll have to deal with all the other people who see it in a different way. And they'll get 1 acre, then they'll get 75, and then they'll build 45, and none of those will be affordable. So I came here misinformed and I was enlightened. And I oppose this because I don't believe that the county can get it together to allow this family to have the property without allowing other developers to come in and run your show. So, and my big concern is traffic. I live in White Sands. I've lived there for 30 years. I love Hawaii. I love Ali'i Drive. You know, you shoved Ali'i Heights down our throats and the contractor was going to do a lot of wonderful things that he never did. So when you start to rezone, I think you need to look at the CDP so that we can see what we're doing. And I still love to have a report from that meeting. I do oppose this. I do see this family's plight. This family's plight should be worked around some way, somehow. They've been on the property. You know, it's a sad thing that, but it's history, you know. You've been screwed, I've been screwed by the development that's come into White Sands. And that's the only thing that I saw when I was coming here. I had no information of your family. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mahalo. Okay, the last registered testifier I have is Mr. Van Pernis. Would you like to do it now or at the time of the agenda? Mahalo. With that, we can request a motion to end public testimony. Oh, Zoom.
Right, yeah, no, it's definitely.
Is there anybody on Zoom?
Yes, good morning, Chair Batusik. There are 4 registered testifiers currently on Zoom. Would you like to swear them all in at once?
Oh, I didn't catch the last part.
Would you like to swear in all of the testifiers at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay,
And just, is all the testifiers going to be testifying now or will they be testifying during the agenda item?
I believe we have some people who want to testify now. Everyone is registered for item 2.
And is if we can pull everybody up on the Zoom, is that possible?
Yes. If everyone on Zoom could unmute and turn on their cameras, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, is that everybody? Are you guys all wanting to testify now or during the agenda item?
Now.
Now.
I'll wait for the agenda item. This is Janet.
Okay.
I'll wait for agenda item, Simi.
Okay, that's two. So those of you who are going to testify now, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have the list of who's there, so if you
Yes, I have the list.
okay, would you take us through the list and will you be keeping time or? do you want me to
I
keep
will.
time?
I
Okay,
will.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Our first testifier is Diane Payella. Diane, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and I will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. You may begin now.
Thank you. Aloha, everyone. I am Diane Piella. I'm a resident of Kona, and I would be considered a Malahini to all these other wonderful Native Americans that are here today. But I want you to know that from the Malahinis, I oppose this subdivision and dividing acreage from 5 acres to 1 acre. I purchased my home, which I worked for many years to move here. I've lived here 5 years now. And this is the home of my dream. I've chosen it back to open land. I respect all the Hawaiian people, and I am just very happy that I can even live here and purchase land and a home. But by any means, do not think that I am in acceptance of this subdivision of land. Yes, I agree with the archaeological sites, burial sites. They are behind my home and on Ho'oka'ana Street. And this is going to be a continual battle because they're not going anywhere. These are, as the Native people have said, this is their land. These are the bones. These are where all their ancestors are. Mm-hmm. So 1, it should not be considered because of that. And 2, even though it hasn't been acknowledged, Pueo live in this area. I see Pueo all the time. A study has not been performed on endangered species in this area, and I really think it has to be performed, but they're there. They're still there unless we destroy their habitat, and then they won't be there. Mm-hmm. Also, I have some complaints of the subdivision, the way it's handled. There will be sewer hookups, and I think from what I've read, they've applied for septic, which that's not even a reality to do for future homes. Also, about the signage and the notification of all this, it was very, very poor. I think an applicant who doesn't follow the rules should not be continued to even go on. If they can't follow the rules now, how are they going to follow the rules later?
30 seconds, Ms. Piella.
So to sum it up, I am in opposition of division of the subdivision. And even though I am a newcomer to the island, I respect Hawaii and I respect its residents. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Aloha.
Mahalo.
The next testifier is Nevin Brown, testifying on item number 2.
Mahalo, please proceed.
Hello, mai kako. O Nevin Kualoha Mate Brown Ko'ino. And I oppose the bill of the rezoning of 5-acre lots to 1-acre lots. I'm a lineal descendant of Kahalu'u, and I got that land, and our family, has land down there from Opunui. And the desecration of our lands, our bones, our waters have been going on long enough. And we don't need any more real estate being built when we could barely afford being here on our land. That's just going to inflate the prices of homes that we still can't afford. And surely everyone wants to celebrate living in Hawaii, buying their first home, celebrating the holidays. But when it comes to our kupunas, these construction workers and everyone else has no problem removing our bones. But fortunately, that's why we're all here. That's why I'm here today, is to stand with the iwi, the land, the Kanaka Maoli, the kupuna that was once here, because if they could speak up, they would tell you guys that enough is enough already. We don't need any more colonialism in our islands. We want you guys gone already. The building of these projects are just promoting out-of-state buyers to live here when they don't even know what Hawaii means to the people that live here and were raised here. The Kanaka Maoli that are still suffering here and these impacts every day. Thank you.
Mahalo. Is there any further public testimony at this time?
No, I believe
Okay.
everyone else wants to testify at the time of the agenda item.
Okay, we'll take the following testimony at the time of the agenda item. Now we can give a motion to close public testimony. No? We should close public testimony then. Terrific, usually we do the motion. Okay. Moving on to unfinished business. Yep, agenda item 1. Yes, we'll do a quick 5-minute recess. And when we come back, we'll take agenda item 1. Good to go. Okay. We'll resume the Leeward Planning Commission meeting with unfinished business. Item number 1, applicant is Sunshine Holdings LLC. I'll read the whole thing. PL-REZ 2022-00000032, application for a 5-year time extension to condition D, final subdivision approval, amend condition E, restrictive covenants, and condition F, restrictive covenants, to prohibit condominium property regimes, and to delete the requirement to provide a copy of the recorded covenant prior to the receipt of final subdivision approval. Deletion of condition G, requirement for conservation plans to be filed with Kona Soil and Water Conservation District, amendment to condition I, drainage study, addition of a condition requiring compliance with chapter 10 of the Hawaii County Code, erosion and sediment control, deletion of condition J, archaeological survey, an amendment to condition M, fair share requirements in ordinance number 9891, which reclassifies 21.353 acres of land from an agricultural 20-acre district to an agricultural 5-acre zone district. Subject property is located at 73-1735 Koloko Drive, approximately 720 feet southeast of its intersection with Koloko Loa Place, Koloko Mauka subdivision, Koloko Ahupua'a, North Konomoku, Hawaii Island, TMK 37-3-025, parcel 012. Commissioner Kanuha will make a statement.
I want to recuse myself from this agenda item just for any conflict of interest, just because it butts up to my property. So, mahalo.
Staff, we have Jessica Andrews. Would you please proceed with the PowerPoint?
Yes,
Very
thank you. Good morning, aloha, and good morning, Chair and members of the Leeward Planning Commission. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. The applicant before you today is Sunshine Holdings LLC, and this is an amendment to change of zone ordinance 9891. I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen. Give me a second here. Okay. The subject property is shown here outlined in red. It's located in the Koloko Mauka subdivision on Koloko Drive at approximately the 2,500 foot elevation within the North Kona district. The applicant's request, a 5-year time extension to condition D, final subdivision approval, with the possibility of an administrative time extension. Also requested was an amendment to condition E, restrictive covenants, to delete the requirement to provide a copy of the recorded covenant prior to receipt of final subdivision approval, and condition F, restrictive covenants, to prohibit the allowance of condominium property regimes, CPRs, and to delete the requirement to provide a copy of the recorded covenant prior to receipt of final subdivision approval. The applicant also requested the deletion of condition G, which required restrictive covenants in the deeds of all proposed lots to require individual owners to file a conservation plan with the Kona Soil and Water Conservation District. And an amendment to condition I, which was a drainage study condition, to add the standard requirement that all development generated runoff be disposed of on site and not be directed toward any adjacent property. The applicant also requested the addition of a new standard condition requiring compliance with Chapter 10 of the Hawaii County Code, which is erosion and sedimentation control. And the deletion of condition J, an archaeological survey, due to the State Historic Preservation Division's prior determination that no historic properties would be affected by the proposed 4-lot subdivision. And an amendment to condition M, the fair share requirements, to clarify that the fair share requirement shall only apply to any additional lots created and to update the required fair share amounts to current rates. This map shows the county zoning at the subject property in the surrounding area. The subject property is zoned agricultural 5-acre, A5A, shown in the light green as our surrounding properties. And other surrounding properties are zoned A3A, A20A, A7A, A10A, and also down on the lower left side of the screen, there is a FA, which is Family Agricultural 5-acre. And as you can see, the entire area is designated agricultural by the state land use designation. And the general plan land use pattern allocation guide designates the entire area as important agricultural lands. The applicant's site plan is shown here, and this is a preliminary map showing the subdivision, the proposed subdivision, into 4 parcels. You can see the access point is located on the lower right off of Koloko Drive. An aerial photograph here shows the subject property outlined in red. It's currently undeveloped and vegetated. And this is a view of the subject property. As you can see, it's vegetated with various trees and vegetation. This is a view from Koloko Drive. And 2 views here on Koloko Drive, looking in the Mauka direction on the left and in the Makai direction on the right. These images are taken approximately at the location of the proposed access drive. And finally, the director's recommendation is to forward a favorable recommendation to the county council. However, I did want to mention that the first request regarding the administrative time extension, the director does not recommend including an administrative time extension on this favorable recommendation. And with that, I will hand it back to the chair.
Mahalo. Would the applicant or the representative please come forward? Mahalo. Would you please raise your right hand? Sure. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission? I do. Mahalo. Please state your name and the town you live in.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Sidney Fouquet. I'm a planning consultant. I live on the east side, Hilo. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the applicant who's participating via Zoom. If there are questions that the commissioners may have that first I can't respond to.
Have you received the background recommendations from the planning department, and do you agree with the recommendations, including conditions?
Yes, I've had a chance to review the staff's background report and the recommendation with the applicant. He is in total agreement with that. As Jessica, your staff had mentioned, there is the original request was to seek also an administrative time extension, which has been nixed, and the applicant is totally receptive to that because his goal is to get in and out as soon as possible. So it's not a problem.
Is there anything that you'd add to the staff's presentation?
Yeah, pretty much, after kind of like reading some of the public testimony and also like hearing this morning's public testimony, I was kind of like reflecting. And, it struck me, I think, like the public hearing process, the public testimony are very valuable because it can be very educational for both sides. For us, the applicant, the developer, the commission, we can become a little bit more sensitized of what the issues are out there. And at the same time, it gives us an opportunity to possibly correct some of the misinformation that's out there. And I think this was kind of plainly evident in this morning's testimony. So along those lines, but at the end of the day, it's really going to be up to the commission and ultimately the decision maker in this or the other application, which rests with the county council. So we would hope that you'd be able to take that arduous task of being able to distill the so-called all of the facts and then arrive at your own independent decision. Having said that, the staff's background report is comprehensive. So what I'd like to do is pretty much like share some of the information which has been kind of floating around and kind of like corrected. And one of them, related to the condition, the deletion of condition J relating to archaeological study. I mean, sure, on the face of it, it looks like almost egregious, but the reason why, that was done was because SHPD had already made that conclusion that that requirement had been fulfilled. So even if you retain that condition, then it became like a superfluous obligation. However, notwithstanding that deletion, a new condition was added, which was condition K, which essentially requires that in the event that there's any inadvertent fines, that activity must stop and you must go through the appropriate protocols to address that. There was also some concern relating to the cultural aspect. One of the persons said, yes, this new owner, and maybe I should just kind of back up. As far as who the applicant is, they just bought the property out of foreclosure, and so it apparently, like the previous landowner was trying to do the subdivision and apparently couldn't. So the new owner is actually bought the property to foreclosure. I think that so really like the delay is not so much the result of the current applicant's fault as much as it was the previous applicant, but notwithstanding that, I think that maybe if he had done his due diligence at the beginning, he would have probably asked the former owner to make sure you get a time extension before you put this property in the so-called zoning limbo, which currently is right now. You don't know whether you have the current Ag 20 zone or the Ag 5A zone. You can't move. So one way or the other, something has to happen. But at any rate, so there was a comment made that the landowner, newcomer, so he can't really attest to the fact that the site has not been visited by Native Hawaiians for collecting of native plants or activities on doing native things on the property. So that's true. I would like to point out, however, that there is a requirement that you will notice like in the forest management plan. And we just received a comment on another application for one that I just did, the Clinton Hinchcliffe's application, which required like a forest management plan. And the forestry actually had, in reviewing a draft of the management plan, kind of suggested that there be a more comprehensive evaluation of what is found on the property, and so that you can make that distinction between what should or should not be preserved and all incorporated in the management plan. And I suspect that since that's that obligation that Hinchcliffe's property has to go through, this is kind of right across, essentially right across the street. They're going to have to do that as well. So I think that from that standpoint, and if we look at condition M relating to the protection of any listed or endangered species, I mean, that kind of issue pretty much can be addressed. And I think that there's also some misunderstanding regarding the deletion of the requirement to have a conservation plan submitted for the review and approval of the Kona Soil and Water Conservation District. That used to be the option in lieu of getting a grading permit. So there is no escape in terms of trying to address all of these things that the Kona Water, Soil and Conservation District would do, because you have these new conditions that require full compliance with the Soil Sedimentation Act by the county. And then finally, I think there's also a misunderstanding regarding double density. So it's kind of clear that if you look at the proposed language of the condition, only one house in each dwelling, no additional dwelling, no condominiumizing. And so that's clear. That's clearly articulated in condition F. Finally, in terms of the decrease in the fair share, there is no decrease in the fair share. All it did was essentially say that all of the monies, as opposed to being distributed to fire, police, parks, and solid waste, that essentially would be all accumulated together, like with the Hinchcliffe application you guys recently considered, would be all accumulated and put in the pot to specifically address the road intersection issue at Kaloka Drive. So that's the only change. So having said that, I think that hopefully with that information that it provides some clarity to the commission and to those who have made some comments on the request. Thank you.
Mahalo. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff or for? Actually, you know what? Let's keep going with public testimony, and then we can take questions after that. Mahalo. Mr. Van Pernis. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
Yes, I do.
Mahalo. Please state your name and the town you live in.
Mark Van Burns, Makala Estates, Kailo, Kona.
Okay, yeah, please proceed with your testimony.
I was late today because I got hung up in the traffic at the Kaloka intersection of 1 mile. Now, of course, today's traffic back was excessive because of the tree trimming, but the bad traffic is there all the time during our hours, not just during tree trimming. There's no reason at all why this application can't be rejected. The zoning remain and the new subdivision applied for. Modern impositions are available. Mr. Fulke seeks to extend for now 30 years the approval of 30 years ago, which assessed traffic improvements and other conditions without consideration for minor needs. When I was on the planning commission, I went to every single application's property. And so with them back to that on the public on West Hawaii. I wasn't interested in making money with the developer. I was interested in representing the public. That's what you should do. Represent the public. Turn this application down and let them reapply 30 years later. One other thing. I'm allowed 30 minutes. All these other people are allowed 30 minutes. The developers allowed is representative of our odds. My town doesn't want them as witnesses. We have no opportunity to keep them honest, to cross-examine, to rebut. This invites misrepresentation from the developer, or less than complete fair representation, and make you folks susceptible to misrepresentation, or less than full representation. Whose side are you on? The developer or the public? Turn this application down, have them reapply, and get all the positions. They need a traffic study, even though that may not be technically required as well. There's many subdivisions that have been approved in this area, including your current client, who has no position.
Well, I'll see this summarize.
And I'll wrap up by saying he, when caught with that conflict of interest, withdrew, but had his loyal staff approve the subdivision a second time.
Mahalo. I have a question for you. In the testimony today and in the written testimony, you indicate that the property should keep its zoning.
I know of no instance in history of this region where the zoning that was granted was changed back to ag or changed to a less intensive zoning. So I don't see what we should do in this case too. The property can be subject to ag one subdivision, but then we need to have modern contemporary conditions imposed.
So you're okay with maintaining, so this is a Ag 5 from Ag 20. But you'd be okay with keeping the Ag 5 zoning, but updating the conditions to reflect the current environment?
If they want to subdivide the Ag 1 and Ag 5, that's fine as long as modern current decisions are.
Mahalo. Thank you. Appreciate the testimony.
If there are any other questions.
All set. Thank you. Okay, commissioners, are there any questions for staff or for the applicant?
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Gold.
I did have a question. I too was concerned with the delay, sort of the reintroduction of this quote unquote stale application, basically, and just wanted to know, Mr. Fugate, why you felt that that was the better course as opposed to just submitting a renewed application on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, I think like in years past, when a person requested for a simple, not a simple, no longer simple, but requested for a time extension, usually it was kind of like, like a 1 or 2 page kind of statement. And the commission or the department's focus was largely on why you couldn't perform within the X period of time. However, over time, the thought process has kind of morphed in the sense that not only the commission, but the county council and as well as the staff now wants to use the time extension as an opportunity to refresh all of those conditions to see whether they're pertinent or not. And so as a result, from my standpoint anyway, like all of the time extension requests that I've prepared and processed through the commission have been predicated upon like the brand new application. So if you were to look at the report that I had prepared, it was not like only 2 pages, it was like trying to address each and every other issue. And while at the same time trying to justify why certain amendments that are being requested.
Thank you.
Director Kern will follow up on that question also.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to follow up on that, basically confirm with what Mr. Fouquet said. So when we receive a request for a time extension or amendment, we do a top to bottom review of the application. just as if it were new. And we looked at all the impacts, and that's why you see in certain cases updated conditions. So this actually reflects the conditions that would be on a brand new, fresh application. So in a way, it's semantics, whether or not it's a time extension request or a new request, because we do the top to bottom review on it. We don't look at it, oh, that was 30 years ago, so we'll let everything go. It's like, no, it's current today, and here's the conditions that exist. Here's the new laws that are in place. Here's the new circumstances that may exist. So this is very current, very fresh.
So
Please proceed. Yes.
given that process, what in your mind is the procedural implication of the withdrawal of the approval? Clear on that? So the planning department, given the lapse in the previous developer's efforts, withdrew the permissions and for the subdivision, right?
So
I'm just wondering what the procedural implication in your mind is once that's withdrawn, because in my mind, then it's withdrawn. And so then a wholly new process has to occur, even if it's in name as well as sort of procedure.
Yes. Can I clarify withdrawn or expired?
I believe.
That word was withdrawn.
I believe what Commissioner Knowles is referring to is the subdivision
Yes, sorry.
as opposed to the zoning ordinance. And so the subdivision application was removed from being processed by the county because the zoning ordinance had lapsed.
Right. Thank you, Michael.
And therefore, so what we have is a zoning limbo. They can't subdivide it. And it's zoned Ag 5. You can't use it as Ag 5. You can't use it as the original zoning in Ag 20. It's basically not usable unless a complete rezone is done, whether it's back to Ag 20 or brought fresh to the Ag 5.
Right.
And because it was not current, you can't subdivide it.
No, I understand that. I guess when I see that word withdrawn due to no response from the previous owner to comply with the conditions of the change of zone ordinance that was done back in the 90s.
Okay,
correct?
yes.
I'm wondering what is the procedural implication of that withdrawal from a sort of planning process point?
They would have to submit a new subdivision application from scratch.
So the subdivision application will be submitted from scratch. That's ended, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
After this
If this is approved and brought current, then a
Thank
new
you.
subdivision application. Sorry.
Okay.
So just to add to that, Commissioner Knowles, so you remember like about 4 or 5 months ago, there was a similar application in this area. So since the commission is recommending favorably and the county council and approved that, then Mr. Hinchcliffe just submitted his subdivision application, which he couldn't have at the time extension or the amendments.
Because we don't know what the zoning is. Got it.
Right, yes.
I'm just curious.
Is there a chance to request this information?
Not at this time. So any other questions from, yes?
Well, I'd like to ask this question to the staff. There is a request to omit condition J. Can you explain more why your director's recommendation is to go ahead and omit this condition, the Shipley recommendation?
I can address that.
Sure. Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, I'll jump in and then can add more, Zendo, if you need to. The rationale that was stated in the background is that the State Historic Preservation determined that no historic properties would be affected by the proposed subdivision by a previous letter for this subject property. And that was a letter dated April 2nd, 2005. And the letter from SHPD indicated that archaeological sites are unlikely on the subject property, given the results of an assessment on the adjoining property and other investigations of properties at a similar elevation. And furthermore, SHPD noted DPW engineering noted that approval from SHPD will still be required for specific grubbing and grading activities as a requirement of Hawaii County Code Chapter 10. Additionally, I'll note that we sought comment from SHPD for this subject application. And to this date, we don't have a response from SHPD.
Thank you, Jessica. The point that you raised regarding the additional review by DPW for grubbing and grading is helpful. Thank you.
Can I maybe make, just to add a little bit on
Yes,
that? Because of, I have some context with the Hinchcliffe application, which is kind of like
Right.
in the same. The Hinchcliffe application, unfortunately, did not have a letter from SHPD providing archaeological clearance. So as a result, there was a requirement that they do like at least an archaeological inventory assessment. So one was done by Arnold Associates, and essentially the conclusion was the same as what SHPD had concluded for this property. Yes, continue.
Mr. Fugate, where is that information recorded?
On the Hinchcliffe property,
Yes,
that was a condition of the Hinchcliffe rezoning.
I see.
And so subsequent to that, the archaeological report was prepared, sent over to SHPD, then they provided to us.
Thank you.
And as a result of that, then they were kind of quote unquote free to submit the subdivision application. Sure, please.
I think this is the planning director. Could you refresh the commission's memory on, I know we had talked about the plans for the Koloko Mamalahua intersection. If you could just refresh our memories on where that stands right now.
Sure, yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I was hoping that was gonna come up, or I was gonna bring it up. So we have met with the DPW representative, the director, council members Western Napa, as well as the state highways division engineer. We've had multiple meetings. Since the last meeting, they did do a TIR, traffic impact analysis report. There is a signal warranted for the intersection. So now we're going to be moving forward with doing a design engineering for that and getting the money to install the intersection. The balance that is in the county account essentially for the fair share contribution will be utilized for the planning and design engineering. Any balance will then be put towards the actual construction of the intersection. So county's on board with it, state's on board with it, HDOT's on board, Hawaii Department of Transportation is on board with it. So it is moving forward.
Any idea on the timing?
You're having a follow-up meeting, I believe, at the beginning of the year. So basically, the council member and I are having quarterly follow-ups with them or so. Expecting to get into some type of design engineering at the beginning of the year.
I can just kind of add to that, and my math is not really accurate, but according to the last calculation that I was able to assemble, projects in this area has contributed in excess of $800,000.
Including the Hinchcliffe. Now, I know we had.
Including Hinchcliffe, yeah, and the area.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any other questions? At this time, could we have a motion? And we make a motion and then we can continue to discuss the application after the motion. Please.
I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on the application for the change of zone docket number REZ 2022-032 based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Mahalo. Is there a second?
Second.
Mahalo. Motion by Commissioner Knowles, second by Commissioner Dela Cruz. Discussion.
So we never really got to meet the sunshine people. Are they on Zoom? Are they going to speak to us, or who are they?
Mr. Christensen is on Zoom, and if you want more specific information about him, his background, so on and so forth, please ask them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to meet them.
Mr. Christensen, is that it?
No, his name is Christensen,
That's his first name,
Micah Christensen.
Micah.
Oh, Mr. Christensen, are you available on Zoom?
Mr. Christensen wasn't registered on Zoom and he's not in the Zoom room currently.
He's not here. Okay.
No.
If anything, all I can say is that he spent, he's on the mainland. It's a small limited liability company LLC. He was planning to be here like the first two meetings, but we got one was postponed that we didn't have a quorum. So I guess on this time, I guess he decided to participate, but he's ghosting us right now. So I'm very sorry.
So where is he from on the mainland?
Utah.
Does he have other developments here?
On this island, not to my knowledge. So if your question is whether he has the capacity and then the gumption to finish up the project, based on my conversation with him, I told him, you got to get out in 5 years because I'm going to be gone. And in addition to that, right, there is not going to be any opportunity for a 5-year extension. And given the fact that now the county council is looking at it a little bit more cautiously on time extension, he's got to get in and out. So he said, yes, there is no incentive in prolonging the project any longer than he can. But I wish he was here to make a statement.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank the director and staff for not forwarding the request for administrative time extension.
I guess one of the things I would bring up is I believe that removing the request for an archaeological field inspection is premature. I believe that the standards have changed in SHPD's review of projects since 2005. And I believe that the project that was being reviewed in 2005, that subdivision, is a separate project from the future subdivision that will be reviewed here. I agree with the recommended language in the condition that's proposed on page 21 of the zoning extension application. I'd recommend a small revision. The language that's proposed on page 6 of the application, page 21 of the PDF, an archaeological field inspection shall be submitted for the review and approval of the State Historic Preservation Division, State Department of Land and Natural Resources, State Historic Preservation Division, DLR, SHPD, prior to the issuance of any land alteration permits or the submittal of plans for final subdivision approval, whichever occurs first. The applicant shall implement any preservation measures which shall be shown on the final plat map as, oops. That's my spot. As recommended in the archaeological inventory survey, AIS, for subsequent preservation plans. I agree with including that condition. Since SHPD was not able to respond in time. The only change that I would add to that is that we're requesting an archaeological field inspection, but I would like to include language that if archaeological sites are found during the archaeological field inspection, an archaeological inventory survey will be prepared. And honestly, I agree that there's a low chance of finding any historic sites in this area. We've done quite a bit of work in that area, but there's always that chance. And to me, it's worth taking a look because this is a development permit. So to me, it's worth having a look, limited look with the field inspection. If they find something, they can do the full AIS. That'll be included in part of their plan. And I think that they will be able to meet their 5-year timeline while doing that.
I like that idea, Chair, because I do think there is that lingering feeling of what has changed in this sort of large gap of time. And I certainly do think our view of archaeological significant sites has evolved.
Is that something that you and the developer would be willing to?
Well, I can't speak for the developer, but if you were sitting on my side right now.
Yep.
I would recommend that you accept the condition.
Okay.
So, but I can't speak for anybody you would accept.
I feel like because that is included in the submittal package to us as an alternative, that the developer would agree with that condition. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry, if that friendly amendment is accepted to the motion, may I please have you restate it for the record so we make sure we capture everything
Yes.
that you intend. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'll make a motion that we amend the motion on the floor to include a condition that an archaeological field inspection shall be submitted for the review and approval of the State Department of Land and Natural Resources, State Historic Preservation Division, prior to the issuance of any land alteration permits or the submittal of plans for final subdivision approval, whichever occurs first. If the archaeological field inspection identifies historic properties, an archaeological inventory survey shall be prepared. The applicant shall implement any preservation measures which shall be shown on the final plat map as recommended in the archaeological inventory survey or subsequent preservation plans. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Knowles.
Second.
All those in favor of the secondary motion?
Aye.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. We'll do a roll call vote. Jessica?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We're doing a roll call vote on the favorable recommendation with amendments as proposed by Chair Vatusik.
Jessica, sorry,
Yes.
this is just a roll call vote on the secondary motion.
On
and
the,
then we'll
okay.
get to the main motion after.
Got it. Okay, I'll back up here. So we're doing a roll call on the secondary motion as proposed by Chair Vatusik. I'll take a roll call. Chair Vatusik,
Aye.
and Commissioner Knowles,
Aye.
Chair DeFranco,
Aye.
Commissioner De La Cruz. I'm sorry, was that an aye?
Aye.
And Commissioner Paishon Duarte.
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it, 5. And Commissioner Kanuha is abstained
The next
or is
question
recused,
is,
sorry.
in the language deleting the requirement for soil and water conservation district plans and instead inserting chapter 10, sediment control, grading and grubbing. Does it make sense to indicate that chapter 10 or a soil and water conservation district plan would be included? I know DPW has put their opinion that that's still a valid option as an exemption to chapter 10.
Yeah, so again, Krishna from the planning department. I don't think it's necessary to explicitly spell that out because it is an option under chapter 10 that they have, should they decide to go a more agricultural route. Something else to keep in mind, given the requirement of lot coverage from forested, natural forestation, might be difficult to do some extensive agriculture there, but
Yes.
should they decide to go that route, then it's already an option for them.
Yeah, okay, so it's under the umbrella of chapter 10.
Correct.
Okay.
I can just kind of add this
Sure.
information. I don't believe like having it approved by Soil and Water Conservation District requires SHPD clearance. The
It
grading
does.
permit absolutely.
It does.
It
Soil and
does.
Water Conservation District also requires SHPD. Is there any other Discussion on the agenda item. Okay, seeing none, we can proceed with the roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. This is for a favorable recommendation to County Council with amendments that were already approved. Commissioner Knowles,
Aye.
Commissioner De La Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner DeFranco,
Aye.
Commissioner Paishon Duarte,
Aye.
and Chair Vatusik.
Aye.
Again, the ayes have it 5, and with Commissioner Kanuha recused, the motion passes.
Mahalo. You will be notified of the commission's decision in writing. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr.
Maybe
Mr.
we
Chair.
can take a,
But I'm going to stay, I'm going to be stepping out. Jeff will be stepping in. Thank you all very much for your service.
mahalo. Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute recess, 5 minute, what do you want? Five. Keep it jamming. I like it. Yeah, 5-minute recess, and we'll be back at 11:05. Should we close up the doors? Okay, the Leeward Planning Commission will return to order. The time is 11:06. New business, applicant is Sean Miley Nakoa, Esquire. PL-REZ 2022-00000017. Application for a change of zone from agriculture 5 acres to family agriculture 1 acre, FA 1A zoning district for 5.29 acres of land. The subject property is located at 77-6632A Kuwatini Highway, approximately 0.25 miles northwest of its intersection with Kamehameha III Road, Pahoehoe first, and Kapa'ala'alaia second, Ahupua'a, North Konomoku, Hawaii Island, TMK 37-7-008, parcel 62. Again, we have a staff presentation by Jessica Andrews.
Thank you.
Olive, 1 second. Commissioner Panshandwar will make an announcement.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to recuse myself, please, as I am related to the applicant.
Mahalo. Mahalo.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Commissioners. My name is Jessica Andrews, and I am presenting the application for Sean Nakoa, a rezone. Just give me a moment while I share my screen. As was previously stated, this is a change of zone application for Sean Maile Nakoa, Esquire. The subject property is outlined in red. It is located on the Makai side of Kuakini Highway in Kona. The applicant's request is a change of zone from an agricultural 5-acre A5A zoning district to a family agricultural 1-acre FA1A zoning district for 5.29 acres of land. The objective of the request is the applicant is a court-appointed partition commissioner who has been vested and authorized by the Third Circuit Court to subdivide the subject property into 3 lots consisting of a minimum of 1 acre each. As required by the stipulated order adopting Commissioner's Report Number 1, filed October 4th, 2021, and directing partition in kind of property pursuant to proposed plan for 3-lot subdivision, filed on December 28th, 2021. The parties to the order are the landowners of the subject property. The order directs the applicant to perform the 3-lot subdivision and encourages the County of Hawaii Planning Department, Department of Public Works, and all other relevant government agencies to facilitate the commissioner's efforts to subdivide the subject property in the manner set forth in the order. The county zoning for the subject property is A5A currently, as are several lots to the south and west of the property. Also nearby are single-family zoning RS10, RS15, and to the east across the highway is an FA family agricultural 2-acre series of lots. State land use boundary map shows that the subject property is designated agricultural, and as are several properties surrounding it. Most other properties surrounding the subject parcel are designated urban, and to the west, or sorry, the east is more agricultural designation. The subject property outlined in red again is part of an expanse that is designated urban expansion. As you can see, all of the lots Makai of the highway are designated urban expansion, and Mauka of the highway is low density urban. This is a section of the Kona CDP map, and you can see the subject property outlined in blue. And essentially the proposed rezone is consistent with the KCDP, which designates the property within the Kona urban area and adjacent to the Kahaluhu neighborhood TOD. As you can see on the map, the TOD is just adjacent to the property to the south. The subdivision map that was provided by the applicant shows that the lot is proposed to be subdivided into 3 parcels as shown. The aerial photograph shows that the property has some existing development on the Mauka side of the property. And otherwise, it is undeveloped as far as construction and buildings. This is a view of the subject property from Kuakini Highway. The access that is currently used is marked with the two orange markings or bollards that are there on the right side of the highway. And here you see a view of Pomokai Street looking south on the lower left and looking north on the upper right. This is the access to the subject property. The Deputy Director's recommendation is to forward a favorable recommendation to the County Council. And with that, I'll hand it back to the chair. Thank you.
Mahalo. Applicant's presentation, would the applicant step forward? Aloha. Would you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission? Wow. And please state your name and the town you live in and proceed with your.
Aloha kako. My name is John Pippin from Honka'a.
I'm Jeannie Clement. I live in Kalawa right now, hopefully not too much.
Aloha and good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission members. My name is Sean Myrie Nakon and I live in Wanya.
Mahalo. Have you received the background and recommendation reports from the planning department? We have. And do you agree with the recommendations, including any proposed conditions? We do agree. Okay, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, a few short words about the process we're going through, the situation that the landowners and the family find themselves in. And let me start by saying thanks to Mahalo for all of your time, your commitment to this process. It's draining at times, and applications like this, there's a lot going on, and it can be emotional. So bear with me, I'll try to be brief. So the proposal at hand is for family ag on 5 acres and change. Pretty simple. The request should be straightforward on the face of it. This is a local family stuck in a position trying to settle the estate by 2 options: either subdivide, which is what we're trying to accomplish right now, or sell. As detailed in the stipulated order that we'll talk about perhaps a little bit more, partition by subdivision is always preferable to partition by sale. This allows the family members to keep their land, right? So this would be a simple subdivision if it had the zoning already to facilitate that. It doesn't, so we're engaged in the process officially to rezone, to change the zone. That's the request before us today. So through this process, I've had to explain to the family that this lengthy and elaborate process is required regardless of the circumstances they find themselves in. We're looking at the general plan for the area. We're looking at guidance. We're looking at what makes sense for this property, regardless of the whole, right? So that said, this is just a family trying to keep their land. They're not developers. And this is a discretionary permit. So we're not requesting any exemptions from the normal process. We've requested some clarification from certain agencies on their requirements. The conditions that we have before us today were agreeable. So as planning staff outlined, this is consistent with the Kona CDP. It's in the Kona urban area, adjacent to a TOD, but not within that area of the TOD that would be higher density. This is consistent with the county general plan impact for urban expansion. We're requesting an increase in density, a modest increase in density, but an increase in density nonetheless. This would even be consistent with the Kona CDP if it fell outside of the Kona urban area, since it is consistent in scale of distributing lots to family members, which is exactly the intent here. I'll respond to some public comments, and it seems like we may have some more, but unfortunately, it seems like there may have been some misunderstanding or some misrepresentations between public comments and testifiers that came forward already. And I've learned through representing a number of these projects to not be too optimistic about expecting little public testimony and opposition on any project. Even so, this organized copy-paste campaign to oppose nearly every change of zone in this area is shocking. The late submission of many of these comments, perhaps strategically, doesn't permit us to respond in writing thoroughly to those comments. It's kind of hurtful, honestly. We don't see a lot of aloha coming in these comments, and it affects all of us, right? We all have to review these comments. We all have to put ourselves in their shoes to some extent. And some of the testifiers have admitted that they moved to Kona recently and are still, saying what should happen with this family piece of land who's been involved with it for generations. Maybe the testifiers should state how long they've been in Kona before decrying the traffic that they experience on their way through their daily chores or, yeah. The sign for this property required was posted in February, and it's been there throughout the application process. It's there today. We mailed out 2 sets of surrounding property notices to over 300 residents around this property. And that's a real cost in this application. So to the conditions, condition N requires sewer connection. It's a cost that has to be borne by the landowners. It's going to be a serious cost. But we found that fighting against the sewer for septic systems is maybe a losing battle. You really got to pick your fights. So we'll do the sewer extension. We'll connect to the sewer line for any homes that are developed on these properties. And a lot of this is discussed up until this meeting. So I understand the public testimony may not reflect our latest understanding of what the project will be with these conditions. Conditions come out a week before, and we have to navigate if we want to ask for amendments to them, or if we can live with it. So we're good with the conditions as they are. Water commitments have been paid and will continue to be paid throughout until the subdivision is completed. And if endangered species are encountered during the course of this project, of course, DOFA will be contacted, and their consult will be followed on how that's treated. All of the species that we're talking about, the whale, the eel, the pepea, these are island-wide, far-ranging species. So, I again don't anticipate any impacts to them following those standard DOFA protocols. Access to Kuakini is going to be prohibited from individual lots, and I don't see, just in engineering or with Department of Transportation review, access to Kuakini at this spot ever being approved. You can see just how far La'aloa had to climb to make the grades acceptable. So, coming straight up that hill, not likely to work. Time to complete. We anticipate the final subdivision can be achieved within a year, 2 years. 5 years is more than adequate, so time extension shouldn't be necessary. But however, the commission and the council wants to handle the standard language around time extensions. We're fine with. Doesn't make any difference to us. Traffic concerns should be negligible. With only 2 additional lots, 3 lots. It's not even really kind of a joke, but I get it. Traffic's bad. Archaeological resources. A lot of conversation, a lot of effort has gone into clarifying Shipte's condition on how this will proceed. So we've had a number of conversations, comment letters back and forth, answers, replies with SHPE. All of it's part of the public record. There's nothing underhanded here. We're just trying to make it a little bit easier for these folks to accomplish what they need to, given that it doesn't appear that they'll need to do any ground disturbance to accomplish this subdivision. So the trigger for SHPE's request to have an updated archaeological inventory survey done, AIS done, is predicated on ground disturbance. And the planning department has interpreted that in a few different ways over the course of time. And more recently, they've moved that trigger up to reason. We'd like to look at it a little bit more closely on this case, and this is what we were asking from SHPE and the planning department, to look at what this subdivision is proposing, what this project is, when it's appropriate to have that AIS prepared. We think it's reasonable to accomplish the subdivision without ground disturbance, and when any future ground disturbance is required, the AIS will be triggered at that point. This is within the SMA. So the subdivision requires a special management area assessment. Homes require special management area assessment. So the fact that what we're proposing right now is less than that valuation trigger of 500,000, we're not required to do an SMA nature at this point. Otherwise, you would be hearing the SMA nature presentation now, along with this one. So the SMA assessment comes next, along with the subdivision application, and SHPE gets a chance to review it at that point. We'll satisfy all the requirements. So I'd like to hand the floor to Ms. Nakoa to talk about the court's role in this and her role in this, and then we'll hear from Ms. Clement.
Well, again, thank you. So I am here in my capacity as the court-appointed partition commissioner. And in short, Circuit Court Judge Wendy Deweese has instructed me to subdivide this property. That's what happened in litigation. And as part of trying to comply with the court's instructions to me, I've been told we need a zone change, and that's why we're here. I would ask that the commission make a favorable recommendation to the council. I'm going to try not to repeat what Mr. Pippin said, even though he stole a little of my thunder. Not used to having somebody talk for me. In any case, I wanted to point out that in Judge Deweese's order, she expressly stated, quote, given the parties' long-standing connection to the property and desire to retain interest in the property, it is just and equitable to order that the property be subdivided and partitioned in kind into 3 lots. As you know, the order further directs me to perform the 3 parcel lot subdivision and encourages the County of Hawaii Planning Department, the DPW, and all other relevant government agencies to facilitate the commissioner's efforts to subdivide subject property. I think it's important to understand, and I am going to highlight it, that this project, in the scheme of things, from an infrastructure point, from a community point, is a Manini project. It really is. Just in terms of infrastructure, not Manini in terms of what it means to this family, because that's exactly the opposite of what it is for them. The property is old-time Hawaiian owned property by this family for generations. and all they want to do is go home. We all know that we have a crisis in our state where we have local families, especially Hawaiian families, leaving Hawaii because they cannot afford to be here. Ms. Clement has told me on several occasions that if she cannot be successful in this project and find her way home, she and her family will have to leave Hawaii. That's one more family. And the way I look at it is that right now, today, in this forum, this is where the rubber meets the road. And I think that this issue of Hawaiian families, local families leaving, that's the issue. And this is one family. And I think that this body can act on that and help that crisis that we know is happening. So again, I will end with, again, respectfully requesting that you folks make a favorable recommendation to the council. So mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thanks, Ed. Made me cry. I'm the granddaughter of Jeannie Kaehukai O'Kahalu, who was given this property that we're talking about by her father, Charles Kuakini. I grew up on that property. I grew up on that property during a time when there was nothing north, south, or Mackay. You could see miles of nothing, just beauty, green and beauty. It was a child's treasure trove to be able to go and holo holo wherever you wanted to go. I know every inch of that property. Some of us that were way Kolohe, and I was one of those. We went from the top of that property, traversed all the way down to Leeward Drive, hopped the wall, and swam at Kahului Beach. Every artifact, every piece that was important to my family was told to me. It's not unknown. We knew. And so as every piece was sold year after year until this remaining 5.5 acres, we knew. I knew where they were. This is my attempt to preserve what we have left. That ahapua was my family's ahapua. I have a map from, I don't know where, 1730. Hundreds of years my family has lived and flourished and grown on that property. And through years it's been divided, subdivided, people have owned it. Other families became a part of that ahapua, which is amazing. Hawaiian families that we want to keep. And that's my intention today. Sorry, I put my eyes on so I can do this. On that property, we raised cattle, chickens, pigs. Occasionally we had a goat. If Uncle Cyrus found one on the road, we brought it home and we raised it. Along with a herd of kids and family members. It has been and will be my family's legacy to perpetuate the sacred cultural things that is Hawaii. I cannot afford to buy a home right now in this place that I call home. And soon, if I'm forced into continuous, arduous processes, I will not be able to afford to live on the land that I'm so privileged and honored to have been inherited. This isn't right. We know that. I'm certain my ancestors right now are shaking their heads in horrible fear and awe, wondering what were all our efforts for? How did we do this for our people that are coming after us? I want to believe the planning department process is about helping people like me, like us, to come and continue to live the true culture of this land. Not listen, and please don't listen to the divisive language that was used in a lot of these representations or the cultural canceling comments that we've heard today. It's not fair. It's not fair to us that have been here for generations. Our cocoa and our kino, it belongs here. Sometimes those people don't get it. That's okay. We can teach them by being good people of the land, good stewards of the land. I'm not asking for large concessions or community sacrifices. In fact, I think I've made efforts to improve the community. When I came home, you know, I left. I want to tell you this story real quick. I'll make it very quick. I didn't realize how relevant it was until today. When I was leaving for college, I was standing on that Kuakini property and my uncle, I didn't want to go. I said, I don't want to take the scholarship. I want to stay home. I want to raise the cattle. I want to be on this property. I want to be home. And he said, no, Tini, you have to take it because eventually you're going to come home and you're going to bring that knowledge back home. Well, I did. I brought that knowledge back home. The irony of this meeting is that I came home, I retired from a company. I came home and opened a medical clinic, a primary care. I didn't have to. But I took any monies that I had and I did. And it was going great. Mahale Family Clinic was my life. It was my job. To give back, not anything for me. Well, lo and behold, a year and a half later, just recently, the doctors that I had that were coming, I already had providers. I had MAs, we had patients, family patients, all these people that live here that cannot get care were coming because we wanted them. We loved them. We were going to take care of them. Well, the doctors bailed. Do you know why? They couldn't find homes to live in. They could not find affordable rent. They couldn't bring their families to live here. They bailed and pulled their money out of my clinic. And here I am fighting to go home. So I will have a place to live. That my children have a place to live. What's the irony in that? It's crazy, right? That I have to go through this just to go home. And the same people that could have helped us grow the infrastructure of medical care couldn't even come to live because they can't afford it. There's no place for them to live. Shame, huh? Anyway, but when I came back home and started realizing I got to bring my mom home and take care of these things, I had to clean the property up. I had 30 dumpsters of trash left by vagrants and people that were just, they were living on our squatters, and then by family members who did not care as much as we did about the Aina. I hauled off 15 cars that people had driven down that Kuakini Road and just let her rip all the way down through the 5 acres. I had to haul those off. I actually added by permit through the planning department a safer road off of Pomaikai because it wasn't safe anymore to come off of Kuakini Highway. It's very dangerous and treacherous. And on a more personal note, we have been working to restore the property to its origin, honoring the Pailina that's there with my grandmother, Jeannie Mahali, and her husband, my grandpa, and my uncle. I've also been trying to restore the flora and the fauna that was once there, that was deteriorated because of the misuse of the property and not being cared for. And more importantly, I've spent time teaching the next generations how important that is. What things are, you know, the pueo is my omako. We grew things on that property to make sure that they had a place to live too. Right? We are caring for the land. And I am teaching those next generations the significance of the property and its importance. So we, the family you see behind me, and those that you can't see, hope that you will make the right decision for our family so we can go home, so we can be a part of the community once again. Mahalo for what you're doing, for sitting here and enduring so much. I'm so sorry you have to go through so much just to help people, but I appreciate you taking on this responsibility. Aloha.
At this time, is there any further public testimony?
Yes, we have two registered testifiers on Zoom. the first
Well, I'll
testimony.
just ask a couple questions before we get into the public testimony.
Okay, got it.
That might inform the public testimony. Ms. Clement, would you give us just a little more background on how your family came to be the owners of this property? From the records, it indicates that you are the descendants of the original Mahele awardee.
Right,
Is that correct?
right.
So this is the land that your family has been on prior to 1848, but during the Mahele,
Yeah,
that was memorialized in the awarding of this property to your family
right,
by King Kamehameha III.
right.
Okay.
Yes,
And has lived on it ever since.
yes. Ever since, you know, from the top
Yeah.
of course, it's the Ahapua'a.
Yeah.
And of course, through the years, things have changed and sold. And
Of course.
but our family has been on that land for
And so
hundreds of years.
as the family has been awarded this in 1848, it is natural that that ownership interest would be spread out over time, where multiple
Yes.
members of your family have a partial interest in the property, correct?
Right, and
Yeah.
so Joseph Nahale, he willed it, he gave it to his three sons, William, Charles, and David. And then my grandmother was the oldest child for Charles Nahale. And then, of course, it went to my mother, who then sold me her interest. My mother's 86 years old, and she is the oldest living Nahale right now. And this is the reason I came. She said, I want to go home.
Yeah.
I want to die here. I want to go back. And I've tried. I'm trying.
And so the decision to seek a partition, meaning to split the land up between family members.
So the biggest issue is that other family members that had ownership in the property had huge tax liens from the IRS and from the state. And so there was a lien put on the property, making it very difficult. You in a mahele or a partition, that lien can move to that person's share so that the rest of us can actually build and go home. We can't do anything with the lien on it.
And then for Ms. Napoa, as the partition commissioner, would you give us a little background on the alternatives here with the partition? And in the documents that we received indicates two options: partition in kind versus partition by sale. And could you discuss a little bit about what that means?
Yes, so the judge has followed the case law that partition in kind among the landowners is preferable to partition by sale.
And just to add, partition in kind meaning splitting up the property itself amongst the owners, correct?
Exactly, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the
exactly.
alternative, partition by sale, would you explain that a little bit?
Yes, so partition by sale is that it would basically go, it would be like an auction. And to the highest bidder, much like a foreclosure auction. So it would go very likely to persons outside of the family. And again, there's an entire body of case law where partition, where there's family members, where there's landowners, there is a strong preference for what we're attempting to do here, partition in kind. So that would be the other option. Partition by sale.
Partition in kind, in this case, allows for the original descendants of the Ahupua'a to keep their land.
Exactly.
On the contrary, if this application is opposed and is eliminated, then we are forcing a sale of land that's been owned by Hawaiian family for centuries against their will.
That's exactly right.
Yes. Mahalo. Thank you. Now, at this time, I'd like to offer for public testimony. For anybody who would like to testify on the matter.
I want to
Yeah.
testify.
Please.
Please do.
Okay.
I can't see who it is on Zoom.
Simi
Go ahead,
McMichael.
Simi.
Hi. Okay.
And how many Zoom testifiers are there for?
Oh, someone else can go first. That's fine. I'll go last.
Oh, no worries. I just trying to figure it out so we can swear everybody in together, and then I just can't see anything. Can we pull it up so we can see all the Zoom testifiers, please?
Yes, we have 2 testifiers on Zoom right now. Simi, could you turn on your video? Is it possible for you to turn on your video?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Doesn't work. It's an old computer, but I got the voice here.
Okay, that's fine.
But yes, I swear. Tell the truth.
And I'm also Janet Matlock, and I so affirm.
Okay, so we'll have both the Zoom testifiers. Please raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
Yes, do.
Mahalo. We'll start with, is that Janet?
Yeah.
Janet, would you please state your name, the town you live in, and please proceed with your testimony. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Janet Matlock, and I live in Carlos. Aloha, members of the Leeward Planning Commission. I want to thank you for this
Very
opportunity
difficult to
speak.
hear her.
Yeah, we can't hear you so well.
Okay, what do I need to do?
Not too sure.
What do I need to do to make it more?
Maybe put your microphone right in front of your face. That might help.
Does that help?
A little.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. I don't know why this is not working. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry for this. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today on this proposed rezoning. I mean that most sincerely, as you are volunteering at what must at times seem a thankless job. And so I do want to mahalo you for your work. And I want to mention, after hearing all of this, that it's not so much objecting, it's not objecting to a family trying to live on their land. And it's objecting to the way, quite frankly, it's been done. And I put this more, I guess, on Land Planning Hawaii's approach of how they filled out their application forms, how they submitted old paperwork, how they really, in checking boxes, didn't tell any of the story. They just simply make it look like, well, we're going to set precedent for how to do things other ways. So it's not about this particular family. It's about how it's been approached. For example, the signage that is supposedly off of Kuakini Highway, I guess. I've driven by it. You cannot see it. It's not off of Pomakai, which is where the entrance is going to be. Mr. Pippin, there is no conspiracy to come in at the last minute. Neighbors responded as soon as we could after we got the application forms from the planning department when they were posted. So I'm sorry if it sounds like it's, some nefarious scheme. It's not. It's just that it takes a long time to read through these things and then go through them point by point. My prepared testimony is this. I am sure that you are all familiar with the parable of the blind men describing an elephant, where one touches the trunk, another the side, another the leg, etc. And then they have a fight. It's like a tree, it's like a rope. And finally, in the telling by the Peace Corps, a wise man convinces them that they each only have a small piece of information. And they realize to learn the truth, we must put all these parts together. And the same is true for the Aina. And it sounds like this family does have great information. So the cultural landscape, we need to know what's gone before. And the more we slice and divide the landscape without first seeking out.
We'll ask you to summarize. That's 3 minutes.
Okay. What I want to summarize is that we need to take a look at this entire Apua'a in its entirety and not continue to slice it and dice it without really understanding what's on the land. This goes all the way down to the Great Wall of Kokini. So that's really what we're going for. I'm sorry this took a turn the way I didn't intend it. And Mr. Pippin.
We'll ask you to complete your testimony. Mahalo.
Okay.
That's been the
Thank
time.
you so much.
Appreciate it. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.
Next is Cindy McMichael. Will.
Okay, I'm going to testify on number 2 and also of the planning director's SMA process.
At this time, all you can testify on is number 2, and then once the planning director's discussion, you can testify at that time.
Okay, I'll try to sum it up. Okay. Aloha, commissioners. My name is Simi McMichael. I'm a Kanaka Maoli of Hawaii, born in the territory of Hawaii. I have land connected to this lot of Kahalu'u for 40 years. I oppose the number 2, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but what is happening now? The family ag is great, but there's no rules to say it cannot be sold off individually once it's done. And HEVA is if it's sold to an outsider who doesn't care about preserving our sacred sites. This land was originally subdivided numerous times from 3,017 acres on the Epic records. Adjacent is lot number 113 of 11,271 acres and the other lot of 105, and it's 14 acres. This was all part of this particular lot. The owners of Seascape Venture is of a real estate management from Arizona. He purchased these lots in 2021, each for $1.460 million. And at this time, any changes, grubbing, grading, archaeology, environmental studies, all required were brought to you, the Leeward Planning Commission, and the neighbors will be notified. Right now, all the surveys, archaeology studies, if any burial treatment plans, HRS 3435 should be completed prior to any subdividing and not after the fact. Once it's gone to 1 acre, it's HEVA with the current rules. Example, the neighbor of Kahalu number 19. I will get to that. But the lot also, when it goes to 1 acre, it's allowed the 7,500 square foot. And this is concern rule number 9 at the Leeward planning hearing. And I testified 3 with attorneys that were on against it, yet it passed. So I can get into that later. But when it gets to 1 acre, it's out of control. And as of lot number 19, I get sworn down the street on Ali'i Drive when I try to pry in why it's not being done correct. I literally got said, get the F off my land, screaming at the top of his lungs at me. And when it goes to all this 1 acre, what is it going to prohibit Seascape from asking for the 1 acre? And then it's just a can of worms. Okay, I'll cut it there. Mahalo.
Mahalo. With that, we will conclude public testimony. Let's see, maybe I'll shut my timer off. Okay, at this time, we can open it up to commissioners for questions of the applicant or of the planning department. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much for your testimony and your application. I just wanted to air out what seemed like a point of disagreement or contention around the Kuakini access piece. And I'd just like to give you, Mr. Pippin, a chance to address that.
Yes, thank you for your question, Commissioner Knowles. Initially, our plans were to just access from Pomakai. There's an existing drive off Kuakini. It's not the best access, but giving it up wasn't seen as really beneficial to anyone at that time. So that's why we argued to maintain access for one lot if necessary. We're fine. It's not a great access. It's a dangerous access. So we're fine giving up that access to Kuakini. No problems there. And perhaps Ms. Clement knows a little bit more if you'd like to add anything to that.
easement's on the side, it's on the opposite side of that driveway. Yeah. Growing up, that was the only way. And then, of course, coming home year after year, it became more and more dangerous. So we're okay with that. We don't, to keep everybody safe. Eventually, we'd like to use the Pomaikai as the main access. We have to go through this process first.
Mike, I have a question sort of about that. And, you know, because it's a tsunami zone, isn't it possible to keep some access in case there is a tsunami or something to get people out of those? Because we don't have a lot of.
I think back when the roads, you know, I'm old, I can talk about these things. But when the road went in initially, there was no law.
Right.
There was no access anywhere. Remember, there was nothing.
Right. I've been there a long time.
But being the landowner there, I look at it as La'olo as a great place. That road wouldn't be accessible from the property currently because you have no way to get into it.
Right.
No one, they would never know there was this little bit of an access road that was there. Yeah. And it's a little road.
Yeah. Yeah, my question was, La'olo, wonderful, I'm glad it's there now. And leaving the Kuakini open, you know, for only accessible if there was a tsunami for the neighborhoods to get to higher ground. I was just asking that question.
It's not, so when we talk about that entrance, the Kuakini access, it is basically just it. Once you get off the state road or the county road, you better have a 4-wheel drive. Yeah.
Would you explain a little bit about the easement on the north side of the property and who that serves and what would happen with that?
So back, I'm guessing it was in the 80s, the 70s or 80s, probably the 70s. The county had created a situation where my family couldn't get on the property. And so at that time, my Uncle Cyrus, who lived on the property, had to go before a commission, and basically say, how do I get on my land? How do I get home? There's no other access road. So they gave us the easement on that side of the property, a bulldozer length, right, shovel length, so that we could actually use and get on the property. It serves no beneficial reason today, because you shouldn't be accessing it from Kuakini, and eventually that'll be taken care of later.
So on the map, when you're looking at the map, there looks like there's a very thin piece that goes down. What is that?
So you've got, it's a little strange cutout on the very top. There's actually two little slivers. Some of it belongs to Steve Birchfield, who someone talked about just recently. Then there's another sliver that we don't understand. It was a previous owner of that portion. And then that actually driveway, I call it a driveway. Steve and I both were using it. Our family, he used it to access his property. And then of course it was the only way in back then. It is weird, I agree.
Commissioners, any more questions? If not, we can seek a motion and we can have discussion after that.
No.
What's that? Do you have? Anyone can do it.
Okay.
I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on the application for a change of zone, docket number REZ 2022-017, based on the deputy planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Second.
Mahalo. Motion by Commissioner Knowles, second by Commissioner Kaliha. Any discussion? I just want to say that I will be supporting the motion. This has been one of the most interesting applications that I've ever seen. I've been on the planning commission now for 4 years, and before that worked for the State Historic Preservation Division for 5 years. And this is the first time that I've actually been embarrassed and disappointed by the community's reaction to a project. The fact that this land has been in your family for hundreds of years, we should be bending over backwards to do whatever we can to make sure that it will be in your family for another hundreds of years. And I'm sorry that you had to go through with that. I personally believe that a lot of it was a misunderstanding of what was happening. I believe that people saw rezoning and automatically assumed they knew what was happening without knowing you, without knowing the property, without knowing the history. Because what you're doing here is beautiful. This is what our community needs, is to rally around the longstanding Hawaiian families to keep them on their lands. Mahalo. Thank you for your graciousness throughout this process. I know how difficult it must have been for you to hear those things being thrown around. Mahalo.
I'd like to thank you, Chair, for giving the family an opportunity to talk about what it means to be a lineal descendant and to talk about the Mahele and to talk about what the true use of the land has been historically. Because I do think that as a community, we need to be more curious.
And like to thank you and to point out also that to the community at large, that these things just don't go through. They're not just rubber stamped. That's exactly why we have a commission. So we can look at each thing individually and make a decision. It's not setting precedents, it's making it right for the community.
Thank you, Barbara. That's one thing that the community, I think as a whole, needs to realize, it's on a case-by-case basis, and especially putting local families and Ohanas that have been here for hundreds of years, occupying that agua that's been theirs and still want to be there, compared to a developer coming in to subdivide, to build an RS 7500 or, that's, what I mean, two separate issues. And, I applaud you, Ohana, for coming in. It's a hard thing to deal with. As Mike said too, I was kind of appalled on everybody and how many testifiers came in, not doing their research on actually what was going on and how this process has been and why you guys are here, in order of just taking care of it through the Ohana. You just have to do it court appointed, and that's, I would say, moving forward, that's the hardest thing. But maybe also on us putting out some other information, rather than just that standard protocol, just to say, this is what's there, maybe why the reason the family is here today to ask for that subdivision of that 5-acre parcel is something that I think maybe moving forward would be great to see. But and I wish only the best.
Can I just say something else?
Yes, of course.
Through this process, this didn't just happen yesterday. We've been working collectively to take care of this INA for 10, 15 years, and the cost that's associated. I was very blessed in my previous career to have some money saved so I could start the process, but I had no idea, hundreds of thousands of dollars. What come of INA family? No wonder we're losing them. No wonder they're not staying. Because if they have to go through what I went through, they can't do it. And we've sorry to use this word, but we've bastardized the process to the degree that we want Hawaiian people to leave. That we don't afford them the opportunity to go home because of all the steps, right? Because of all the nonsensical things that we have to do. I love Shipti. I know why they're there. Nobody knows that land better than me. Nobody. I watched my family go in there. I was there when they spread their ashes. I was there. And most Hawaiian families can say that. They can attest that to you. I was there. And all they want is to go home. So if you change anything, I hope that this is a broad awakening of most people give up. And then you find their properties in litigation because no owner, they can't pay the taxes. I stepped in and paid the taxes that were due, a lot of money. But I want to go home, and that's why I did it. I could, but there's a lot of families that cannot.
I agree. I believe that this is case in point of why Hawaiian people have been displaced from their land. And it is a shame that the costs associated with doing this, having to hire a land planner, having to do all of these documents, these things are unfortunate. And thank you for taking that step to do this in that way. If it does set a precedent, I hope that the precedent is that projects like this will be given special attention from the planning department to make sure that the costs are kept low, that they're allowed to move this forward, keep their land.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say, both as a court commissioner and individually as a native Hawaiian woman myself, wow, I feel really good about my local government today and all of her that's in this room. All thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo. And just on the specifics of it, question from the planning department, the administrative time extension, I would hope that that will be included in this. It is terrific, because I think that giving this family every opportunity to be successful in keeping their land is what we are hoping for. And I believe that's the intention of having an administrative time extension, is to serve our community like this.
I could just recognize Jeff, Deputy Planning Director. We feel the same about this application. From the beginning, there's been some hurdles, but we've been able to work through them. The one that we had a tough time was the AIS, but we were able to work through that so that all the costs weren't placed on one person. I'm really happy with the outcome too.
Mahalo. I agree that there could be no better stewards for the historic sites on the property than the folks who are the direct descendants of the people who created those historic sites. So not just preserving that history, but allowing it to live. Is there anybody like to make we've made a motion, we've got a second. Let's do it with the roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Starting with Commission, actually, I have a question, if you don't mind. I wanted to just verify that Commissioner Paishan Duarte is recused. Do I have that correct?
Correct. She's recused as.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So doing the roll call here, Commissioner Knowles.
Aye.
Commissioner Kanuha.
Aye.
Commissioner DeFranco.
Aye.
Commissioner De La Cruz.
Aye.
And Chair Bertusik.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes with 5 ayes.
Mahalo. Mahalo for your time.
Mahalo.
Good luck with the county council. I'm happy to attend this one if you would like and share my perspective.
I would love it if you would.
Mahalo.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to the planning director's report. I believe we have public testimony on the planning director's report. Cindy, are you still there?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Ms. McMichael, you may proceed with your 3-minute testimony. You've already been sworn in.
Yes. So I'm still following up from the last testimony that Alex was supposed to send me the update, and this January was supposed to show me that it was on the report, but I never got that report. And the permit was from 2022, But then Alex sent me the permits of 2019, and he added 3 lots, not just lot number 19. He added 19, 13, and 4, which is the Kahaluu Historic District. So I'm still awaiting that process. And this is a historic property, and it's still being done with no SMA permit. And it's being allowed to be grubbing and grading without any permit. And when they find inadvertent fines, Chipty's called, Chipty can't get on. So how do we deal going forward on less than 1 acre? And 7,500 square feet of construction. And development also means destruction of historical sites. That's it.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, mahalo. I hope that county folks will continue to follow up with Ms. McMichael in order to address her concerns. I think that can be taken care of outside of the meeting.
Yeah, that's correct. We've already been seen the additional questions and are following up on research so that we can respond to them. Mahalo.
Now we can continue with the SMA report.
Sure. So we sent out the SMA report for the month of October. And so in the past, on our agendas, we've just said list of minor permits and SMA exemptions by the planning director. In the future, we're going to be explicit to state that it's for the preceding month. And so that's really the intent of that, so that the commission has an opportunity to review and ask questions on any of those that came from the preceding month, should there be any.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on. Mahalo, Christian. Agenda items for next meeting?
Sure, me again. I'll just say that we have 2 agenda items on the next hearing. One is an rezoning amendment, and the second is a special permit. Although it seems like there is a small number of items, I anticipate the rezoning amendment, which is the Kona 3 application, is going to take much of the day, if not all. So please plan accordingly. We anticipate it'll be an all-day event. And the last thing on the agenda to consider is election of officers for next year. So think about whether or not you want to put your name in, or if you want to who you want to nominate to be your officers for next year. And it has been past practice that if you're not here, chances are we will vote you in. So also plan accordingly.
Okay. Vice Chair DeFranco's question was, when is my term end?
Yeah, it's perpetuity.
It was her question. Not mine.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Erica, you know offhand?
Oh.
March of next year, yeah.
Okay, so you, in that case, you will.
First quarter of 2023.
Yeah.
March 2023.
March 2023. So in that case, you
Oh,
will.
I know I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So in that case, we'll want to elect a new chair for next year to serve out the remainder of 2023. So think about who wants it. Okay, announcements. Did you do that already? No, Leeward Planning Commission's next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 15th, 2022 at the West Hawaii Civic Center, Community Center Building G, conference room. Public can attend and testify by Zoom.
I would like to mention one other thing. At the last hearing, Maya indicated that in 2023, we intended to shift to the council chambers. As a follow-up, we've learned that they don't have audio recording capability over there that we would need to do our transcriptions. We're still in the process of trying to figure out a technological solution. But in the meantime, we are going to, at least for the first couple, unless we can figure something out very quickly, be here still in building G.
I like it. Okay. This is a comfortable space. Then the ACs were.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion by Vice Chair DeFranco, second by Commissioner Dela Cruz. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. We're good.
Thank you, Mike.
12:13 is the time. Thank you, Noriko.